Salutations, respected viewers. This is George from Ireland, and in this video I shall ask whether a human fetus is a human being. Now, I contend that such a fetus is a human. So, if we're not sure if somebody's alive or not, what would the doctor first do if somebody's collapsed on the floor? First thing the physician would do is call to the person, hello, hello, are you all right? See if they respond. And fetuses, certainly towards the end of pregnancy, do respond to sound. I'm not saying they can comprehend words or anything, but it can cause movement. So response to stimuli is one of the 7 signs of life. What else would a doctor do to determine if someone's alive or not? Feel for a pulse. Anyone knows that. If there's a pulse, there's a heartbeat. And fetuses have heartbeats from actually a very early gestational age, from only several weeks. So they are sentient. I'm not saying that they can think. They kick their legs. Any pregnant woman will tell you that. Other people can feel this woman's belly and there's a baby in the uterus and he or she is kicking. That's another thing. The baby is either a girl or a boy. These fetuses, they have genders. So we shouldn't say it, he or she. Obviously, often don't know it's he or she. There is a convenient untruth, to paraphrase Al Gore. The convenient untruth is that a fetus is not human. A fetus is human and a fetus is alive. A fetus has human DNA. A fetus has a mother or father, and the fetus is either a girl or a boy. Human, I mean, in what sense could they possibly not be human? Now you might say, yeah, but we date someone's life from their birth day, not from their conception day. Well, that's true because we often don't know the conception day, and a lot of fetuses and embryos die naturally in the womb. It leads me on to another point. If you knew a woman was pregnant and she had a miscarriage, would you commiserate with her? I think you would. Would you expect her to be upset? Yes, sometimes distraught. Why? Why? If it's just a cluster of cells, this is like molting. It's like hair falling out. It's like clipping your toenails. There's nothing to be upset about. The most natural thing in the world. It's it's less than trivial. It's just de minimis if that were to happen. Well, no, of course you would express your sympathies to this person, and that this woman is usually deeply upset, and you can see why, because her baby has died. And that's why sometimes when these babies are stillborn and so on, people dress them, wash them, cuddle them, as part of the grieving process. So we tell pregnant women not to smoke or drink alcohol. Why? Because it's going to harm their baby. And there's official medical advice about that. So clearly we consider we do have to care about the well-being of the baby even before he or she is born. Operations can be performed in the womb. So yes, this fetus is alive, or even embryo is alive. They're antenatal classes. Why? Because we care about the health of the baby whilst the baby is still in the uterus. It's not just for the sake of the parents. So I saw, what's her name, Sarah Silverman, speaking about how she went to support a woman who was having an abortion. There was no sense of it being medically necessary, as in she was going to die or face serious health consequences if she didn't have an abortion. So it's completely elective. And Sarah Silverman said, well, the pro-lifers were saying it was bloody murder. Well, blood will most certainly be involved in an abortion, even a very early stage one. Why? Because what has blood? It's not plants. It has to be an animal of some kind. Humans, we are animals since we're not plants. So, and the blood group of a baby is not always the same as the mother, which underscores yet again the separate individuality of the baby. So a baby's not part of the mother's body. Woman's right to control her own body. But it's not your body. It's somebody else's body. I realise it's inside you, but it's not your body. So people sometimes say, well, men shouldn't talk about this issue. Now, I try to imagine what it would be like to be pregnant, and I can't. And I realise that does lend point to the pro-abortionist claim that men should never speak on this issue, well, unless they're pro-choice, of course, which is very hypocritical and illogical. So this is the conundrum, because I know perhaps 20 women who've had abortions, and I'm very close to some of these women. I hold them in high regard. And that's a staggering thing, is they've done something so deeply immoral. I know bad people do good things, and good people do bad things sometimes. Yes, a woman I knew, she told me when she was 18, she just left school, she had a short-term liaison, she became pregnant, she had an abortion almost straight away. Telling me about it several years later, she was crying, saying, I couldn't have looked after it, which was bogus, because Many 18-year-olds, women younger than 18, have given birth and brought up their children. She didn't want to look after this baby. That's the long and the short of it. She came from an upper middle class family. Her parents would have hit the roof. Nobody else in her social milieu had a baby under those circumstances. So that's why she did it. She made the immoral choice and has been much happier for it. And that's the wicked world we live in. Or a woman I know who was in her late 20s, she'd already married, she had a daughter, was one or two, she became pregnant and she chose to have a termination again. She and her husband were not rich, they weren't poor either, they had their two-bedroom flat, they both had decent jobs, but she said, I felt I had no choice. She definitely had a choice. She's just deeply uncomfortable with the choice that she made, so she tries to pretend like she couldn't decide. Well, she was forced to do something which is absolutely not true. She lived in a country where this was legal. So that's the thing, is people who are morally upstanding will sometimes switch off their moral compass on a certain issue, persuade themselves that a certain category of humans are not human. They've done it on a racist basis or because of some people's faith or gender or sexual orientation or whatever, but now we do it to the fact that they're not yet born. And as I've said before, I'm not a particularly well-behaved person. I'm flawed like most people. Do bad sometimes, do good most of the time, I like to think. Try not to do too much harm. If I were female and if I were pregnant under difficult circumstances, can I be certain I wouldn't have a termination? No, I can't. I'd like to think that I wouldn't, but it's so difficult for me to put myself in that position. So I think one of the few things we can all agree on is people should tell the plain truth about it. And that's another astonishing observation, is that these adages are just so bogus. Honesty is the best policy. A lot of people hate honesty. They can't abide being told the truth. And I've faced up to what a human being is. And a fetus and an embryo, these are human beings. There's no two ways about it.